is here for you. It helps you in all you do. It helps you know you do. So tune in and now enjoy the fun. It's time for English everyone. Studio Classroom is on the air. You can watch it everywhere. English is the way to go. So join us now, enjoy the show.
Well, hello there and welcome to Studio Classroom. We're very happy that you are joining us today. My name is Gabe.
And I'm Anne-Marie. As usual, today is a great day to learn something new.
So let's do that together. We have a very fun article for you today and tomorrow. I'm excited about this lesson, Anne-Marie. Do you know why?
Why?
Because I suggested it.
Oh, you did?
I did. This place in South America, in Bolivia, is incredible. My friends just, introduced me to it, through YouTube videos a couple months ago.
Okay.
And so I was like, man, this is really awesome. We should talk about this on Studio Classroom. So we're going to be talking about the salt flats, or as you can see in your title there, the Salar de Uyuni, the Bolivia's Salar de Uyuni. And it is in South America. And Anne-Marie, just, as a question for you, would you like to travel anywhere in South America?
Oh, well, I've never been to South America before. I really don't know a lot about what you can see and do there in South America, as much as I would places to visit in Europe or Asia.
Well, what about Machu Picchu? Like, that's probably the most famous place to visit in South America.
I mean, I would take an opportunity to travel anywhere if I could take it. But yeah, I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, Machu Picchu for sure. See some of those wild llamas or vicuñas out there. The ancient civilization and the ruins. I'd love to travel to Rio in Brazil. I have a friend who lives in Chile, and that's a really long country. That I'm sure that the terrain and the climate and everything, varies a lot even within that one country. I think it would be amazing to travel to South America. And what do you think about traveling to the place that we're going to learn about today?
Well, as we are going to find out in our article, it is a very interesting place and we can't wait to talk about it with all of you. So let's get into our first reading of today.
Bolivia's Salar de Uyuni. Imagine salt as far as the eye can see. Salt may be commonplace, but the salt flats of Bolivia are anything but that. They are so huge that satellites can clearly identify them, the world's largest salt flats, from space. From November to March, the rainy season, water overflows nearby lakes, eventually reaching the flats.
Hello everyone, welcome to Language Lab. I'm David. 我们先来看 commonplace 这个形容词，意思是平常的或常见的。譬如 carjackings are very commonplace in several major cities this year. 今年在几个大城市里，劫车事件非常普遍。或者 heart surgeries are quite commonplace now, whereas 50 years ago they were rare because they were so risky. 现在心脏手术相当普遍，但是50年前很罕见，因为风险很高。再举一个例句 ：Big box stores are commonplace no matter where you travel in the U.S. 无论你在美国哪个地方旅行，大卖场都很普遍。接着来看 overflow 这个动词，意思是泛滥或溢出来。譬如 There has been so much rain lately that the rivers are beginning to overflow, and people fear there will be flooding. 最近雨量很大，河流开始泛滥，大家都担心会淹水。Overflow 的现在分词 overflowing 可以当形容词用，意思是溢出的或充满的。例如 The garbage cans need to be emptied because they are overflowing. 垃圾桶需要清空，因为已经满出来了。再举一个例句 ：During a war, hospitals are usually overflowing with wounded people. 在战争期间，医院通常都充满了伤患。
Thank you so much, David. All right, let's get into it, friends. Bolivia's Salar de Uyuni. Imagine salt as far as the eye can see. Let's take a look at that phrase. As far as the eye can see. That means if you can see something with your eyes from where you are standing, then you can see this thing, and basically it goes on for a long time. You can't see anything beyond that.
Yeah, like for example, have you ever been in a meadow before and there were wildflowers as far as the eye could see? Or maybe you've been on a boat before on the ocean and there were just waves and water as far as the eye could see. That means you really can't see anything but that thing.
So, would you like to go to a place where there was this much salt, friends? Imagine salt.
Salt.
Yeah, as far as the eye can see. So when I think of salt, I think of that grainy thing you put on some of your food, right? However, when you travel here, it'll just look like a big flat white thing. Okay, that's all the salt that is there. Salt may be commonplace, but the salt flats of Bolivia are anything but that. Okay, let's talk about that phrase, anything but, and then that. Well, the that here is referring to the adjective commonplace, okay? So we could say the salt flats of Bolivia are anything but commonplace. You could use a lot of words to describe the salt flats, but you cannot use the word commonplace.
That's right. And one more thing about this sentence pattern, the that at the end of the sentence is actually unnecessary. It would be totally okay to say salt may be commonplace, but the salt flats of Bolivia are anything but. That is also grammatically correct. Well, there's something else we want to talk about in the next sentence here. They are so huge that satellites can clearly identify them. But we want to talk about the word identify.
Yeah, if you can identify something, that means you can recognize it and prove or show what something is. So the idea here is that satellites from space, when they look at this area of the world and they see that white spot, they can clearly identify that as the salt flats in Bolivia.
Well, we have more to learn in just a moment. Right now, it's time for today's Info Cloud.
Hello friends, welcome to InfoCloud. Hey Zach, you look a little excited about something. What's going on? Did something good happen to you?
Yeah, our friend Tony from Okinawa just told me I can stay at his house if I ever want to go to Okinawa. I'm planning for a vacation now.
You might want to take it with a pinch of salt. He invited me last year too. When I actually went there, he said he was too busy to take care of me. I had to find a hotel to stay at.
Oh, wow. I guess he doesn't always do what he says he'll do. Well, let's talk about that expression, take it with a pinch of salt.
This expression means to listen to something with some doubt, because it might not be true.
We say, take it with a pinch of salt when the source of information or statement is not trustworthy or reliable.
In other words, it implies not to believe something totally. Historically, salt is considered an ingredient of an antidote to a poison.
So, take it with a pinch of salt implies you need to be careful with who you are listening to. Don't be fooled. You also say, take it with a grain of salt. It means the same thing.
当我们听到一些可信度不高的消息，有人可能会说，听听就算了。英文的说法是 take it with a pinch of salt。字面上 a pinch of salt 是手里掐的一小把盐。由于 salt 也就是盐，在历史上曾经流传是一种毒品解药的成分，因此 take it with a pinch of salt 就代表要小心自己听到的东西不一定是真实的。Tony said he will finish the project, but take it with a pinch of salt. Tony 说他会完成企划案，但是他的话听一半就好。你也可以说 take it with a grain of salt， 意思是一样的。这就是今天的 Info Cloud， 我们下次云端见。
Bolivia's Salar de Uyuni. The water covers the salt with a layer of water, creating a mirror. Some say it is hard to tell where the sky ends and the land begins during this time of year. In fact, the flats have been nicknamed the Mirror of the Sky. Sitting at 3,656 meters above sea level, the flats vary by just 1 meter in elevation over their entire 10,582 square kilometer area. Now that is flat.
好的，接下来看 elevation 这个名词，意思是海拔或高度。譬如 during their trip to Peru, Lauren had difficulty breathing because the elevation they were hiking at was so high. 他们去秘鲁旅行的途中 ，Lauren 呼吸困难，因为他们践行的地方海拔太高了。或者 when driving up the mountain, we could feel our ears pop because of the increase in elevation. 我们开车上山时，因为海拔升高，我们能感到耳膜胀痛。另外 ，elevation 也有提升、升高的意思。譬如 ，the doctor told Nellie that she needed to go to the hospital right away if there was an elevation in her blood pressure. 医生告诉 Nellie， 她的血压如果升高，就要马上去医院。
Thanks so much, David. All right, in this section we learned about the nickname, the Mirror of the Sky, and we also learned a little bit about the elevation here and the differences in elevation. And there's not much of a difference, right? Well, let's take a look at some phrases here. The phrase, some say it is hard to tell. Some say, that's a good phrase for you to know when you want to express that a lot of people believe or express something. Maybe not everybody. Otherwise, we would say everyone says, but some say something.
That's right, and sometimes we use this when the thing that is said may not be exactly factually correct, but it's just somebody's opinion, but a lot of people have that opinion. You can't tell where the sky ends and the land begins. Well, that's not really a fact, right? We can tell where the sky ends and the land begins, but people feel that you can't. So that's why we use the phrase, some say here. We have something else we want to talk about in this section. We read, sitting at 3,656 meters above sea level, the flats vary by just 1 meter in elevation. All right, well, we want to look at vary by. Let's talk about what that means.
Vary is another word for differ. Okay, how is something different from something else? Here we're talking about how something differs in size or degree from one place to another. So the flats vary by just 1 meter in elevation over the entire area, which is quite big.
It really is. And then we read here, now that is flat. This is a really good sentence pattern for you to know. When you hear something that's interesting or shocking, you can say, wow, now that is, and then put in an adjective. For example, maybe your friend tells you about something that she bought at the store. She didn't pay a lot of money for it, so you can say, wow, now that is cheap. That is really inexpensive.
And notice that when you use this phrase, you really have to emphasize the word that. Okay, we don't say, now that is cheap, or now that is flat. No. The emphasis is not on the word now, it's on the word that. And this is a great expression for you to know. Okay, so now that is flat. And that is all the time we have for this section. We'll see you right after this.
Hello, friends. I'm Detective Ernest Finder. Did you know that salt was often used to preserve things in old times? People would wrap up meats in salt to keep them fresh and ready to eat all the year. And we still use salt to preserve food. One thing we do is to pickle foods, like kimchi. We put it in salty water. One time I was making cookies and I put a cup of salt instead of sugar into the mix by accident, and it definitely preserved the cookies. Why? Because no one ever ate them. They tasted terrible.
Bolivia's Salar de Uyuni. This arid area is the lowest point of the Altiplano Basin that rivers drain into. Because the air is so dry, the rainwater quickly evaporates, leaving behind salty elements. How much has been left behind? The estimated amount is about 10 billion tons, 10 meters deep in places. Just 2 islands are located on the flats. Isla Incahuasi hosts giant cacti that can reach 10 meters in height, and Isla del Pescado boasts a prime place to watch the sunrise.
"最后来看 evaporate 这个动词，意思是蒸发或挥发。譬如 Clara left the room for a few minutes, and when she returned, most of the water she had been boiling had evaporated. Clara 离开房间几分钟，回来时她煮的水大部分已经蒸发掉了。或者 To have a good flavor, the soup needs to simmer until half of the liquid evaporates. 要让这个汤好喝，需要炖到一半的水分都蒸发掉。Evaporate 另外一个意思是消失或消散。例如 The country's hopes of peace with its neighbors evaporated when the leaders realized that soldiers were at its borders. 当领导人发现敌军已经出现在边境时，他们跟邻国和平相处的希望就破灭了。
Thank you so much, David. Let's learn more about this amazing place right now. This arid area is the lowest point of the Altiplano Basin that rivers drain into. Let's take a look at that key word, arid. This is usually used to describe a geographical location, an area that is really dry. It's so dry that most things cannot live there.
You can also use it to describe a climate as well, an arid climate. That's the way the climate is in a certain location. Well, we want to look at the next sentence here. Because the air is so dry, the rainwater quickly evaporates, leaving behind salty elements. How much has been left behind? We'll find out the answer in a minute, but first let's talk about that phrase, left behind. You get the idea that there was something there and then it wasn't, and the remaining thing is what is left behind. Kind of like when you spill soda on the table.
Okay.
And then you clean the soda up.
You clean the soda up.
But if you don't clean it really well, you might get some sticky residue left behind.
Oh yeah, there's a little bit of sticky soda left behind, or the residue, like you said.
Yes.
It's left behind on the table. So the idea here is that, of course, water, the rainwater evaporates like all water does, but not everything is taken up into the air, right? Some of that salt is left behind. The estimated amount is about 10 billion tons, 10 meters deep in places. Okay, well, let's talk about something else here, and that is in the very last sentence, you see the word prime, talking about a prime place to watch the sunrise. That is like a really good place, or maybe the ideal place to watch a sunrise.
I hear the word prime used with the word location quite a bit. A prime location For example, that small town is a prime location to build a house, or that town is a prime location to raise a family. Like Gabe said, it's an ideal spot.
Or maybe you've heard of prime time for television, right? Television studios know that the best time to have a program, maybe the best program that they have, they want to air during prime time between 6 and 7 p.m. when a lot of people are watching television. All right, well, it's time for some English tips. Enjoy.
Hello everyone, I'm David.
And I'm Gabe, and it is time to learn a tip to help you improve your English grammar.
Today, we're going to talk about a crutch that many language learners use when studying English.
You know, a crutch is something that a person depends on to help deal with something difficult. The problem is that once you start relying on a crutch, it gets hard to eventually stop using it.
So, the crutch we're learning about today is subtitles. When you watch a movie or TV in English, do you put the subtitles on in Chinese?
Reading subtitles in one language while you're listening in another can be helpful in some cases, especially as you're first starting out. However, as time goes on, they won't continue to help you.
Here's why. When you read in one language and listen in another, you are forcing your brain to do translation work. Your brain will automatically focus on the language you're most familiar with.
As this happens, your brain will begin translating from one language to another. Languages have different grammar, so this is really going to keep your English grammar from improving.
To learn English well, you must think in English. It's impossible to think in English if you keep letting your brain rely on the crutch of subtitles.
So, do you rely on Chinese subtitles when you're watching something in English? I think it's time to break that habit.
And for more tips on how to improve your English grammar, check out the 空中英语教室杂志 official channel.
We'll see you there.
Later on.
No crutches.
No crutches.
Just as a reminder, you can find those tips on our YouTube channel. That is the 空中英语教室杂志 official channel. And speaking of, we have a lot of different things going on there as well. Like the hot words in the news that me and sometimes Rebecca host. We talk about some news items that also appear in your magazines. But yeah, what else can we introduce our friends to about social media?
Well, on our YouTube channel as well, you can see all of our previous tips from all the other months in this year on there as well. We've put them on there so that you can continually watch them and improve your English. We also have at least one lesson per month on there that you can watch for free on YouTube. So if you're listening to the program, that might be a good opportunity for you to actually watch the program. We have our Instagram account as well.
Yeah, that's right. We'd love if you were following us at sc.hosts because we like to post additional information, maybe some brief English teaching tips, or just some fun stuff that you can find on there as well. And we'd love to hear from you. So sc.host for Instagram. Also, if you have Line, we have 每日英文 and find the Studio Classroom 每日英文 channel. It's similar to what we offer on our Facebook channel as well.
Yeah, that's right. And if you do join that Line account, you can get daily English vocabulary cards through that as well. You can learn a new phrase every day or vocabulary every day. So that is another free service we offer.
Speaking of vocabulary, here's a little quiz for you. We saw the word cacti in our lesson today, which is plural for something. What is the singular for cacti, Anne-Marie?
This is a little difficult because it ends with an S. It's cactus.
That's right. Okay, we do have more to learn about this awesome place in Bolivia next time, right here on
Studio Classroom.
Proud to have you in my life. A good friend lasts a lifetime.